G'day guys, Fitcho here, and today we finally have some Motogp 18 footage. We have 4 different clips, all about 1 lap long at 4 different tracks. So I'm going to show you guys these clips and break it down, and also go through all the stuff we have heard from Milestone to see what we have in store for us when Motogp 18 drops in just over 2 weeks time. But before we get into this video, if you guys are excited for Motogp 18, make sure you smash a like on this video, and of course subscribe to the channel if you guys are new for much more Motogp 18 content. But without further ado, let's get into it. So let's start with a statement from the lead designer, Matteo Pizzotti. It will simply be the greatest and purest Motogp experience for all the fans. This title marks the arrival of the series on the Unreal Engine, a leap forward in terms of technological innovation, ensuring enhancements in the visual quality, realistic and impressive lighting effects, and completely reworked physics. The game faithfully reproduces all the distinctive behaviors of the bikes, thereby reducing the gap between fiction and reality, while making it accessible also to the casual gamers through the introduction of interactive riding aids and tutorials. More details about the technological features will be unveiled soon, but with all these new advancements, our goal is to offer our fans the most realistic and immersive Motogp experience. So the main things to take out of this statement, in my opinion, is the switch to the Unreal Engine. Switching to a new engine for a game is a big deal. It means a big overhaul of a lot of things, and somewhere else on their website I saw they described the game as a complete reboot of the series. This is not going to be just a sequel, a whole new game redesigned and rebuilt from the very basics. New technologies for both graphics and physics, and an innovative drone scanning system for one-to-one track reproduction. So new graphics and new physics is the main thing to take out of this with that new Unreal Engine, and I think I might do a side-by-side comparison of this Motogp 18 footage that you're watching in the background and the same sort of track and rider combos in Motogp 17 to sort of demonstrate the graphical changes and the changes in the physics. So it's going to be interesting to see how the handling is on this new game with these new physics, if it's an improvement over Motogp 17, which I'm sure it will be a new game. It should hopefully be an improvement. I'm looking forward to trying it out. It should be a little bit different. Another thing I've noticed in here, in that second statement I read out, is the drone scanning system for one-to-one track reproduction. That is quite interesting. I've found sometimes in the past the tracks have been a little bit off with the way they are on the game, so going for drone scanning is a great move from Milestone, in my opinion, to get the tracks a lot more accurate. But it's going to be interesting to see if they get the undulation changes properly with the drone scanning. Of course, that is, drone scanning comes from above, so I'm not sure it's necessarily going to get the elevation changes right, like the scanning they do with iRacing. I forget what it's called at this moment. But another thing they said is true-to-life riders, bikes and tracks, drone and 3D scanning for a one-to-one recreation of tracks and riders. Now they're doing some 3D scanning of the riders' faces. I've seen in some of the trailers and videos they have tweeted out. So from what I've seen in the trailers, this means they're going to go with something that the Formula 1 games have been doing over the last couple of years. They're going for sort of like cutscenes before the races on the grid and that sort of stuff, and introducing the podium. So we'll get to see our rider walking around a little bit more, and not always with his helmet on. That's in career mode at least, and just in the general game itself. We'll see the real-life Motogp riders, and hopefully that'll stem all the way down through to Moto 3. I'm not sure if they've gone and scanned everyone's faces in Moto 2 and Moto 3. I've only seen that they've done it for all the Motogp riders, but it'll be interesting to see if they've done Moto 3 and 2 as well. I'm not convinced they will have, because scanning all the people's faces is a bit of effort, and it takes time getting everyone in to do that and organizing all of that. But nonetheless, it does say they have it for MotoGP. So going on from all that, back to reading directly off their website. We started from scratch and from the very basics. Everything you'll see in Motogp 18 is completely new, from the graphic engine to the physics. Specifically, the latter will make essential for you to learn how to pick and manage your tires and their temperature, along with your bike's aerodynamics. You'll also collect development packages to enhance your bike, from engine suspensions to brakes and chassis. So there's a bit in there about the physics, as well as they're saying it's going to be better physics in terms of being able to understand what your bike is doing, the tire temperatures, and how to pick your tires, how long they're going to last, how to manage them, and all that stuff, which for me personally is going to be great, because I've struggled to do that so far on Motogp 17 and Valentino Rossi, the game. So if they improve the physics and make that understanding of the tire easier and more important in the whole game, I think that is a great thing. It's something in the Formula 1 games, which is such a crucial part, is understanding the tires, knowing how they work, being able to look after them and knowing which tyre to pick at which part of the race is such a crucial part in Formula 1 games. So seeing that come across into MotoGP more so is great, because of course it is an important part in real life in MotoGP. We see so much talk about tyres throughout the race, like Zarco going on the soft tyres and Lorenzo recently doing the same thing, and those tyres being so quick at the start and they have to capitalise and build a bit of a margin before they lose that performance with someone like Marquez coming through, going for a harder option and being quicker at the latter phases of the race. I'm struggling to speak here. So seeing that transfer across into MotoGP 18 is something I'm definitely excited for. Like I said, it's an important part of MotoGP, and the game is meant to be a realistic copy of that for everyone to enjoy, so hopefully they do get that across properly. Now, another thing in this statement that I've read is the development packages. Enhance your bike from engine, suspensions to brakes and chassis. So this sounds quite exciting. It seems like, again, they're looking at what Formula 1 is doing and Codemasters are doing with that game and trying to take the best aspects of that out of it. You know, you've got the 3D face scanning and these new cutscenes and the podium and stuff, which Formula 1 are already doing, and now they're looking into development, which is something we've seen over the last couple of years in the Formula 1 game in career mode. So it's something that I think is quite exciting, seeing the development of the bike, being able to work for upgrades and then put them on the bike and see the effects of them, because it's one thing I've noticed in MotoGP. You jump on the bike and that's it. You just ride that bike for however many seasons you want to be on the GP18 Ducati or whatever, and it just never gets that much better. So it's going to be interesting to see how they work this, because they also need to be careful, because of course MotoGP, the way we see it, you know, you got Pramac Ducati, they're running on, or Miller at least, is running on an old 2017 Ducati. They're not really going to be able to upgrade that all that much, but say if you're running for the factory Ducati, hell, you've got heaps of money, you can throw as much upgrades at that bike as you can, because that's what they do in real life. So it's going to be interesting to see how they work this in properly so it reflects real life MotoGP. Also, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the AI on the other team. Say you're riding for Red Bull KTM and you're going to be trying to upgrade that factory KTM bike. How much are the other teams going to upgrade? Is Honda going to put upgrades on their bike? Is Ducati going to put upgrades on their bike? Is Yamaha, etc., etc.? How much are they going to upgrade compared to how much the player can upgrade? Are you going to be able to build the KTM up and compete with the Hondas and the Yamahas and the Ducatis? Or are they always going to just be developing that bit the same rate as you, so they're always that same distance away? Or are they just not going to upgrade it at all and you can make that KTM the best bike by miles? How are they going to work this in? This is going to be interesting to see. It's a problem Formula 1 have been battling with over the last couple of years, making the development system work well, so you can build a bottom team up, but at the same respect, you can't just develop completely away from everyone, and the AI do have a bit of a development race with you. Another thing they need to think about is, how does the development system work? Sort of in the Formula 1 games, I've found, I haven't played through enough seasons to find this, but a lot of people I know is, you know, you have the development, you start off with your base performance in Season 1, and then the the cars, this is Formula 1 I'm talking about here, you'll have your development, you'll go at a different rate, but then once you get to, say, Season 5 or 6, it all starts to return to the same original performance, because every car can upgrade the same set amount, and once they all reach that potential, the differential between them is all back to the same as Season 1, and the performance just ends up being the same. So it's going to be interesting to see how MotoGP work in this development system into the game, and if they can do it better than Codemasters with the Formula 1 game. So to summarize everything I've said so far, Milestone have actually put everything into a nice little dot point list on their website. So let's quickly have a little look through this to summarize everything so far. Graphics, you got the Unreal Engine 4, a step up for graphics and physics, so that is going to be awesome. I can't wait to see how much the graphics have improved on the new game, because to be honest, MotoGP graphics have been a bit lackluster in the past. Personally, graphics aren't a big deal to me, but an improvement in graphics, I'm not going to say no. It's definitely a nice feature to have. The 3D scan of the faces, highly detailed reproduction of all MotoGP riders' faces. In this, what it says on the website, it specifically says MotoGP riders, so I don't think that's going to incorporate Moto2 and Moto3, unfortunately, but still, MotoGP is a good place to start with that. Then you've got the drone scanning, the one-to-one recreation of all the MotoGP tracks for an unprecedented realism. That is awesome. I love the fact that they are trying to improve the improve the quality of the tracks on their game. You know, I play a lot of different racing games, from F1 to iRacing to Assetto Corsa to Project Cars, etc. And I do notice there is always a little bit of difference between the same track across the games. And I've found especially so on the Motogp games, I've found that probably being the worst recreation of the tracks. Of course, iRacing being the best with their laser scanning, but seeing Motogp and Milestone making an effort to improve this with the drone scanning is definitely an awesome thing in my opinion. Physics AI collision system. Face smart opponents that will exploit your weaknesses, such as the performance decrease of your bike at each collision. So this goes straight into the next point, which I'll read as well. Scalable damage system. At each impact, feel the decrease in both aesthetics and rideability. So what I'm getting from this is that I've taken the damage system and tried to improve it, and that's a good thing. So I've found so far in Motogp games, the damage system is almost non-existent. I don't really notice it's there, and of course every hit you get on that bike, every time you fall on the ground, that bike picks up a lot of damage, especially when you fall off the bike. I've found you can fall off your bike in Motogp 17, get back up, and the bike just feels exactly the same. I'm fairly sure I do have damage on the highest setting. So seeing them increase the damage system is definitely something that is needed, because every time you hit someone, you hit something, you fall off your bike, your bike does get a little bit of damage, and it is going to affect the rideability of that bike. So that's something that definitely needs to come across from real life into the game, and it's nice to see them making the effort on that, but it's going to be interesting to see how well they pull that off. Now, they've also talked about the AI. They're saying face smarter opponents that will exploit your weaknesses. So this is something I am excited about. Improved AI is always something I like to see, because me personally, I mainly play career mode on the Motogp games, which I am going to be doing a series on when the new game drops. I'm very excited for that. So improved AI is always something I want to see, because racing the AI, it can get a bit repetitive after times. You are only racing computers, and they can get a little bit predictable. So to see them try to increase the AI, hopefully increase their aggression a little bit, so you can get some better racing, is something I'm especially excited about, especially the exploit your weaknesses bit. And I think the way they've written this is especially focused on the damage system part. So if you do have some damage, it seems like the other riders are going to know about that, and are going to see how your bike is riding differently and know where you're weak, and hopefully capitalize on that. So it's going to be interesting to see how they pull that off, and it's definitely something I am excited about. Tire management, choose the right tires, and ride considering their temperature and consumption. So this is something I've already touched on. They're trying to increase the tire management and tire involvement in the game, I guess you could say, for the lack of a better word there, which is something I'm excited about. I already spoke about this, how it's a big part in Motogp, and seeing that come across in the game is definitely something I am excited about, because it's something that does need to be there. It's something I personally have never given any thought playing a Motogp game in the past. And that's a bit worrying, to be honest, considering how important it is in real life. So seeing them make an effort on that is definitely exciting. And then they've got a little bit about the development, bike development and setup. Collect development packages and use them to enhance your bike. Again, engine, suspension, brakes, chassis, and aerodynamics each will affect your performance. I already talked about this. Another exciting thing I hope they do bring into career mode. Tracks. Race at the highest speed on the Misano circuit, or face the fastest turns of Indianapolis. Now, so far in MotoGP games, we've just had the 19 or so tracks that are on the calendar in that season, and we haven't heard anything that suggests that it's not going to be the case in this new MotoGP 18 game. Except this, I found this on their website. Face the fastest turn of Indianapolis. Now, Indianapolis hasn't been on the calendar for a handful of years, yet it is still getting a mention on their website about the new game. I don't know if this is an honest mistake, although I kind of hope it isn't. And could this be a hint that classic tracks are coming into the game? Of course, we already have a lot of classic riders, so classic tracks could be the next step in that. And if that is the thing, that's a little hint there, something they're saving there. I'm very excited for that, because that is something that would be awesome. Career, start as a rookie and climb up the ladder from the Red Bull MotoGP Rookies Cup to MotoGP. So that's just confirming that the career mode is going to be pretty much similar to the last year in terms of where you start and where you end up, hopefully, starting in the Rookies Cup. But it would be kind of cool if we have a longer period in the Rookies Cup. But that said, a lot of people don't really follow the Rookies Cup. They follow from Moto3 upwards, so spending too long in the Rookies Cup could get a little bit boring. So I think if they keep the career mode the same, it will be a nice balance. And then they have a little bit about the multiplayer. Of course, esports is returning, which is quite exciting for the whole MotoGP game as a whole. Not so much me personally, because I'm not the quickest, and esports isn't necessarily my thing. But for MotoGP as a whole, seeing that esports is an exciting thing. And I've also got a mention of a championship mode in multiplayer. Make your own championship with your own rules and challenge other players. I don't know if this was in previous games because I don't venture into multiplayer much, but nonetheless, that is an exciting feature for league racing. Right, I have rabbited on for quite a while, and I haven't even got to the gameplay that is right in front of us, so let's do that now and have a look at this gameplay. Now, first of all, the quality of this gameplay isn't the highest, so we can't fully appreciate the improvements of the graphics just yet. We have to wait until the full game to do that. But that said, around Qatar, it does look a little bit different, I think, with the lighting and all. It does look a little bit better, in my opinion, so I can't wait to see that in all its glory once I get my hands on the full game. Now, one thing I have noticed, the actual rider does look a little bit different on the bike. Their movements are a little bit different and do look a little bit more realistic. This is all part of the new physics model that they're bringing into the game. It's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out, but it looks good so far. Now, looking at the HUD, I guess you could call it, around on screen, like down in the bottom right, that HUD, or whatever you want to call it, does look a little bit different. In the previous games, the speed was the main focus in that, and now they've switched to that to what gear you're in, and as a player, that is a really good thing, because looking down there to remember what gear you're in, and just seeing the speed and having to remember the little yellow numbers to the right of that to check your gear was a real bit of a pain in the ass, I guess you could say. So moving the gear into the main focus of that is a cool thing. And one thing I have noticed there as well, they no longer have your throttle and brake traces on that now, and it does have a bit of a new modern sort of twist to it, and it looks quite nice. Now, looking at the bottom left corner of your screen, the mini-map has been made quite a bit smaller and moved down right into the bottom corner of the screen, which is nice, just getting a bit more out of the way of what you're actually looking at and what you're racing against. And one thing I have noticed there as well is they now have turn numbers on there that will pop up around every corner. I think this is absolutely fantastic, because not only does it tell you what number the corner is, if it actually has a proper name, that corner, it will just say that name. And for me personally, I think that is fantastic. I love learning tracks and learning all the names of the corners off by heart, and looking at a map on Wikipedia isn't the best way to do that, to be honest, but being able to ride the track and seeing it as you're riding around the corner and actually seeing the corner in all its glory is a fantastic thing, and it's definitely going to help me when I am live commentating through my career mode. I can actually get the corner names right and the corner numbers right when I'm commentating, and don't have, oh, I think that was corner 8 or something like that, like I have a few times in the past. So I do like that as a little feature, but I think that is fantastic. Looking up to the top left, the coloring seems to have changed of the thing, and they no longer have the position in the top left. It now says MotoGP. And one thing I did notice, I think it was on the first clip, the Mazzano clip, at the end of the lap, it came up with the full timing column down that left side, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Although in the other 3 clips, I haven't noticed the same thing. So I'm not too sure what's going on there, because I love the idea of having that timing column down the left side of the screen, because most of the time when you're riding, you have no idea who is around you on track unless you can literally see them. So you're sort of guessing a little bit, you know. I find sometimes in commentary, if I pass a bike and then I'll sort of segue into who's next up the road. I do that a lot in my F1 videos, but then I realize I can't actually see who it is, and suddenly I'm guessing and making a fool out of myself. So being able to have that timing column and know who's leading the race, who's in front of you, who's behind you, I think is quite an important thing, in my opinion, as a rider, is knowing who's around you on track. So, but I'm a bit confused with the fact that I've only seen it in one of the 4 clips. So it's going to be interesting to see if that is a big part of the game or not, if it's a common thing, or if it's just there in that one video we saw that was released by Milestone. I'm not too sure, but I do like the idea behind it for all those reasons mentioned. And in the top right, we've got the same timer that we've always had, and the position is also now added to that instead of being on the left side of the screen. So that's just some of the immediate changes that I've noticed. I hope you guys have enjoyed looking at this gameplay. I think something I'm going to do in the next couple of days is a proper comparison between MotoGP 18 and MotoGP 17. I'll just shut up in that video and let you guys watch a side-by-side comparison of the two, same track and rider combinations, so you guys can actually see what the new graphics do look like, although we can't fully appreciate it, but you do see differences like the lighting and stuff that will still come through in the lower qualities, and mainly you can see the differences in how the rider behaves on the bike and how that bike does behave. So hopefully I'll get around to that in the next day or so, but I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and seeing a first look at some MotoGP 18 content. The game drops in just over 2 weeks and I cannot wait. I'm picking it up 9 AM when the shops open, coming home and getting straight into career mode, and that's going to be right here on the channel. So make sure you do subscribe if you're new for that. It's going to be out in just over 2 weeks and I cannot wait. So that's going to do it for today, guys. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure you smash a like on the video. I've been Fitcho. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.